In the last video, this is how far we got. The next thing we need to work on, or next thing I'm going to work on, is the structure for the drawers, the dividers, and the little platforms, and getting it all squared up and straight. The straighter and more square I get it, the next step, the easier it'll be to make the drawers and to make them fit correctly. So let's go. Let's take this apart and see how my glue joint did. Alright, the bottom skirt ready to put on the front. I just squared up some stock and I cut a tenon on each end, and then I cut an arc with the bandsaw and then sanded it with the belt sander. So what I need to do is cut a mortise here and here, and to do that I'll take the panels off because there's no glue, they're just screwed on, so it's no big deal. I can lay them flat, and I won't use the mortise machine because I just have two of them. It'll be quicker just to cut them with a chisel.
And by the Louisiana Farm Bureau Federation, the voice of Louisiana agriculture, working to protect the food supply chain at every level during this
glue up time on this. This is kind of a critical joint, and the tenon is not that long. I probably could have made it a little longer. So I'm going with epoxy here. I need the strength, thickened epoxy. And in the end, you'll see I use a lot of pipe clamps. I'm a pipe clamp fan. They don't get much respect in the woodworking world, but they're inexpensive. With a bunch of different lengths of pipes, you have a bunch of different ways to clamp things. And some of these pipe clamps were my daddy's, so they're 50 years old and they're still working just fine. So if you got to buy some clamps, think about the pipe clamps. The old reliable, inexpensive pipe clamps.
I'm going to divide the interior of the carcass in half to make these shelf pockets a little easier to mess with, these drawer pockets, and to give it some strength. So I got this piece of plywood. I'm going to cut a groove right down the center of the back for it, and I'm going to cut a notch in this stringer as soon as this glue dries. But for right now, I'm going to lay it over on its back and cut that groove and try to get it right in the middle. Try to get it square with this.
Using my little router with a 1/4 inch bit, the bit follows the edge of that plywood, so it makes it real easy. You just line up the edge of that guide with the pencil mark and clamp it, and usually get it right on. So I had to do it twice because the bit's smaller than the groove I needed. And then I had a scrap of the same plywood that I was using for the partition, and I was using that to check my width. I did have to adjust it once or twice to get it perfect.
I've marked my notch for the plywood on this little front rail, but before I did that, I clamped this board to the back because the back had a big bow in it. So in order to make the dimension right, I had to get this bow out. So I got these boards clamped, the back's now straight. I checked the front, it's straight, and I squared this with a framing square both sides. So I just need to cut this little notch. So I just need to cut this little notch and lower this piece of plywood down till the bottom is right here, and glue it in place. This is an important structural part of the chest. Okay, I got the partition dry fit, and I got the back straightened out because both the top and the bottom wanted to bow in. I got it really straight now. So structurally, this is what I'm concerned with. I think that because this is such a long span, and this is the only meat I got really is this little 1.5 inches of wood, between the drawers will not be a lot of depth to make it strong. So I think this is what's going to happen. The weight of these 6 drawers or 8 drawers is going to push down. It's going to want to make this sag. If I have a good connection here, this won't be able to sag without this plywood leaning forward. This plywood can't lean forward without taking the back with it and making the back lean forward. And the back won't be able to lean forward if I fix it to the top. The top will act like a membrane. So basically the top fasteners is going to keep the front from sagging over the years. That may not sag, you know, right away, but in 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 years, it's going to want to sag. So if I have this connection real well right here, and in the back it won't be able to sag. So I'm going to use epoxy. It's not a very good joint for white yellow glue, and I'm going to clamp it up and walk away for a little while and let it cure.
Here I'm making the mortise for the top rail. Being able to stand the cabinet up on end where I have solid backing, and having a sharp Fastener bit and some sharp chisels makes it quick work for the two little mortises.
So I got the top piece of trim ready to be glued, and this center piece of trim ready to be glued. The top piece has a little tenon on each end, and the middle piece there's a rabbet. So these pieces are wrapped around this plywood, top to bottom. And I had some unevenness in the side, the top of the side, so I took a standard measurement and I went all the way around. So I'm gonna have to trim these things. There's a hump in the middle. I guess this was twisted. I'll have to get the power plane and trim it all down flat. But these two little pieces took a while. A lot of fidgeting, but everything's pretty square so far. Pretty happy.
So it's glue up time again, and again I'm using thickened epoxy. I need to make sure these joints don't let go. And looking at this video after the fact, doing editing, I think I might add some long screws coming in from the sides into this top and bottom stringer, just to give them a little bit of mechanical fastening in spite of the chemical. In addition to the chemical fastening, probably won't hurt, and won't take much to do it. So I'm going to add some screws later on.
So today I got this upper piece of the face frame set glued in, and I got this vertical set and glued in, and then I cut 20 little drawer supports, all the same width and the same thickness, and all of them are very flat. I threw away, if it had a twist or a curve in them, I threw them away. These need to be straight. I have them screwed and glued. On the outside of the carcass, I just have a screw on each end, and I'm going to have to take these off and glue them because I did them dry. On the inside of the carcass, I attached the first ones with screws through the plywood, and then on the second ones I'm going through the big board and into this board. So these are really strong. They're not going anywhere. And tomorrow, maybe if I work tomorrow, I should be able to finish off the face frames. They will be more or less like this. They'll go across. They need to be strong and straight because they'll have no support. They're just going to be going across there. So I'll have to be kind of picky on which boards I use. And I don't know how I'm going to attach them. I think I'm probably going to have to drill and put a screw and put a plug in each one. I'm not sure yet. I'm calling these drawer glides, but I don't think the drawer is actually going to slide on here. I'm going to put some sort of wear strip on here, so over the years when the drawers don't fit right anymore, this wear strip will be able to be replaced. And also it'll need a strip, a vertical strip here to keep the drawer from banging around side to side. And I'm also going to need a strip across the back to keep the drawer from going too far in. So a lot left to do, although we made some pretty good progress today. And I also pulled this joint apart and went ahead and glued it because it's not coming apart anymore. So tomorrow I'm going to plane the top down to get it all to grade. I'm going to do some exterior sanding and continue working on these face frames. I'm going to do all this carcass 100% before I start on the drawers. My shop's just not big enough to have too many things going on at one time. A little progress. I removed these and put some glue behind them and put them back. So that's 5 there and 5 there are glued. And then I brought the top down level. And I would like to say I used a real sharp hand plane, but I didn't. I used a Bosch power plane and got it close to the line and finished it with the belt sander. I plugged these screw holes and it's coming along, and I'm getting ready to cut. I need 6 pieces to go across here. So I have the material. I'm gonna join it and saw it and plane it, and then try to decide how to mount it.
So once I had enough stock prepared, I brought the pieces to the carcass and marked the length. Cut the length on the table saw. My table saw seems to cut a little more accurately than my miter saw, and I wanted these to be cut as as accurate as I could get them. I don't want gaps in the face frame where that's the first thing people are going to see. Kind of snuck up on the line. Once I had a length that worked, I put the piece back into the carcass and I scribed the drawer support on both the bottom and the top of the front rail, and I have to do both top and bottom because when you get to the bandsaw to cut them, it only works sticking out one end. The other, if you try to turn it the other way, you hit the support of the bandsaw. So I put the marks on top and bottom. And over at the bandsaw, I found if I take my time and go real slow with thin stock like this, I can cut pretty darn accurately. Remove the pencil mark but nothing else. Then I got all 6 of these face frames fitting very well. So on these little face frame parts, I decided not to go with screws. I decided to use dowel pins, dowels, and you can't see, but I have the depth of the hole marked with a Sharpie on the Fastener bit. I was kind of careful about that. And I have these little dowel pins. They're just simple as they can be. They're just a little aluminum pin. They come in all different sizes. One size fits the hole for the particular dowel, wooden dowel you want to use. The other side of it has a sharp point in the middle. So you just stick the pin in the hole.
I got my 2 holes drilled in the drawer front, and I drop in the dowel pins, and I put this in place. And give it a whack. So here is where I need to drill for the dowel. And then we drop in the dowel. Check our fit. Okay, so when we get them all done, we'll get some glue mixed up and we'll epoxy them into place. All 6 of the drawer dividers are cut and fit and ready to go. I'm gonna prime them with epoxy because I'm gluing mostly end grain, and then after that soaks in a minute, I'll put some more glue and put them in place.
Face frames are all installed, glued, and sanded, rough sanded. So let's end this video here, and next go around we're going to be building the drawers. Thanks for watching.